Welcome back, everybody, to a podcast where what were we doing just before we hit record, James? What were we doing?
Well, what we normally do is we have a good old talk about triathlon and it's
Ah,
all gold. And then we remember we're meant to be recording it and start recording, and we both just run out of inspiration.
talking triathlon is
So,
what we were doing. This is the podcast talking triathlon. I tried a different way of doing it this time, Jimbo, because I still have no idea how to intro the show. How's it going, guys? My name is Tim Ford. That is obviously James Bale, Jimbo. The curse of the podcast is a thing that is very real. We have documented cases of the curse of the podcast, and this week is a bizarre situation because today huge news is broken, but we've also got an interview that we knew we were doing, and we've also made like we don't have a lot of time to do this like pre and post part.
yeah,
So
yeah, because this news that has dropped is something that we could allocate an hour of
oh, we
just
will.
talking it through, analyzing it. So that'll be something we'll do next week. But yeah, Ironman have dropped this news that there's going to be a 1.7 million, or as my brain read it this morning, sleepily in bed,
Trillion.
1.7 trillion prize pot for a pro series. You've probably, because I woke up to this
Yep.
news, this press release. I've skim read it and I've jumped on the podcast. You've probably got had more time to read and digest it than I have. Is it three races and an average? And
It's it's five races, up to three Ironman races and up to three Ironman races will count because Ironman races are worth more points. And then I think it's $200,000 for first, all the way down to 10th, and then 10th to 50th is like 5,000. But I
okay,
fucking love this news, mate. Like again, and I think you're exactly right. We are going to dedicate like next week. We're going to be talking about Kona. We're going to be talking about. I think next week's episode might be quite a long one, to be honest, because
yeah, yeah,
it is this frustrating thing, right? Because we literally are quite short of time this week. Like we've got an interview with Hayden Wilde, I should say. Hayden's coming on the show this week. He was meant to come on last week, as I sort of said last week. There was a mix up, so we did our Kona preview last week. We've got Hayden on this week, but I definitely like. I really do want to talk about this because I've been talking with a lot of the guys that I work with, a lot of the pros that I know, and I think this is such a positive step for the sport because it means there's these designated races. I think there's 7 Ironman races and 10 70.3s on the calendar that are going to be these designated tour races. The thing that I was when I heard it, which I thought was like, oh, this could be a bit shit, is all the other pro races are going away. Not the case. All the other pro races still exist. So there's still prize money pros races like Ironman New Zealand, all these other ones. I am blown away by how positive this is, to be honest. Like
yeah. It's
we are
really good. It's really good.
I
It
have
it
been quite vocal for a long time saying that Ironmen don't care about the pros. And as I say on this podcast a lot, I am happy to be proven wrong. I am extremely happy to have been proven wrong today. Now, I'm not an idiot. There must be something in it for Ironman, but this is huge, huge positive news, I think, for especially for those iron distance athletes as opposed to the middle or short course athletes.
what's in it for Ironman is to generate enthusiasm and
Mm.
generate eyes that are going to watch these specific races, because not you're still going to have a pro races across the world, but you're going to have these designated races that count towards this prize pool, and so you're going to draw the talent, draw the skills and attributes of some of the top athletes into that
Mm.
little mini series ecosystem, and you're going to create something that people really want to watch because you're going to
Yeah.
have the best of the best racing. And
Yeah.
I like people say it's Iron Man going toward the PTO. No, yeah, fair enough. You can interpret it like that, and there's not. I couldn't put much of an argument together to say that's not the case. But also, what can also be true at the same time is that this is also a really good thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's a shot across the bows of the PTO doesn't mean it's a bad thing. They're not going to be using the PTO ranking system
Yeah.
to designate who does and doesn't get the long course, because the PTO, as good as those races are, 100K isn't really representative of long course, of the longest of the long course athletes racing each other. So this will create a new ecosystem where those athletes that really suit that Ironman distance and blasting out for those long hours go and race each other. And I think it's a really good thing for the sport.
Yeah, I'm super proud, and I think you because I put out a tweet today saying that fucking they're bringing the fire, and somebody came back and they said, yeah, but how long is this going to go for? Are they just going to do it till they put Ironman out of business? Are they going to do maternity leave? And I'm like, I get all the points you're making, but you've got a very negative approach to this. But I don't think it is a negative, right? Like we've become so conditioned to expect monopolies in this sport, and the fact that the PTO are doing their thing, which I still think is fantastic, we can have that and that can be great. And then we can have this and this can be great. Like, because I do really think that, look, you're going to have athletes that try to do both. There are names that I can already see that I can see try to do both. I did like though, I have like, and Andrew Messick, whatever you think about it, I did notice in the article he did, I think it was Try 24/7. He did have a few little little jabs at the PTO, which I thought were quite funny, where he said the PTO is offering this position to 40 athletes. We want to give the other 960 pros options. And he said, no contracts, no nothing. You can race ours, you can race theirs. It doesn't matter. And I was like, fucking, I like that he's having a little bit of aggro.
Which is probably the only that's the answer to the comments you're getting about maternity leave and things like that. They're loosening it so much that it's optional. Were they saying you can, if you're going to race this series and you're going to qualify for the prize money, if you're going to be eligible for the prize money, then you can only race this series. That's when we'd get into a conversation of, okay, so how are you looking after these athletes? Are you paying them a living wage for the year? All of them who have to be in this ecosystem, a living wage for the year. Are you giving them maternity leave and stuff like that? But being that it's an optional series that will work alongside the PTO, and the PTO, as much as they are now a race series as well, they also are an athlete body which looks after the well-being and welfare of the athletes. Ironman doesn't need to step into that role. They've just provided this framework the athletes can race in if they want to, and say, well, do it or don't do it. If you do it and you qualify well enough, you are eligible for the prize money, irrespective of whether you've raced the PTO races as well. Yeah. It's a good thing. I see it as a good thing. There may be some negatives attached to it, but at the moment, I need to spend some more time with it before I can pull those out.
I think the only thing I do look at it as a potential, like, because again, I was talking with Mike Phillips about it today, and we were saying, the drop off basically from 10th to 50th is 5,000, which is the same. And I said to Mike, what I see happening, right, is you're probably going to see at those first Ironman races. I think Ironman Texas is one of the first ones, for example. Probably a lot of pros there. And I think what will happen is you'll probably get the guys who do quite well will keep going with it. And then you'll have the others that sort of come in for one or two. So you'll have a lot of the people who do 10 to 50th will only have done one or two of the Ironman races. Whereas the people who excel will, like a Joe Skipper. I think this suits somebody like Joe so well. They're going to be the ones.
Athlete like Sky Munch, for example, you'll start seeing people like that really focusing on this sort of this opportunity. And I love it.
Yeah, man. I think it's look, I think we've given our initial thoughts. I'm super high on this. Like really, it's put me in a really good mood today. Like I've been messaging a lot of people.
One final point before we move on is that the PTO series is brilliant and I love it and I endorse it and I'm up for it and I love watching the races. The only thing that's ever grated with me with that series is it doesn't really reflect the high quality Ironman athletes. It's not really, it's bridging the gap between 70.3 and Ironman. It's not really giving us that full Ironman racing distance championship, and this might do that. So I think it fills a spot that needed filling. I don't see it as competition particularly.
And I think people, again, and I like that, right, is because a lot of the commentary I've already seen is about this is going to suit the iron distance guys, which again, we know Joe. Joe's been quite vocal about the fact that he's sort of just been left in the lurch a little bit. Again, I'm actually going to try to probably get Joe to come on with us both to talk about next week. Joe, Mike, we'll get somebody on, because I think it's a good conversation to have. But look, we have
Mike
Phillips, Kiwi.
Mike. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Why not New Zealand this year? What we're going to do now is we obviously got the interview that I did with Hayden. Again, we were meant to do it last week. He fucked me literally like the Friday morning the podcast came out. He's like, I can't do it, man. I'm sorry. So huge thank you to you, by the way, James, for having done the Lord's work and then being in somewhere in France, uploading the audio and stuff for me. Really appreciate it.
Top of a hill.
You did well, mate.
Yeah, find some signal.
It just so happened that it was an absolute banger. I've seen overwhelming positive feedback. I've started listening. I actually rarely listen to when I'm not on this show. Not that I listen when I am on the show, but I don't really listen. But I started listening because I was curious about what Dave said.
Tim Ford only listens when he's on the show.
Always, mate. That's I love. My favorite part of editing this show is listening to my own voice. I love it. No, look, Hayden is on. I had a chat with Hayden. It's a great conversation. We go through a lot of stuff. So I'm going to drop the interview with Hayden. We'll be back, have a little chat, and then we'll do a bit of Kona stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, here we are. We are joined by Olympic bronze medalist, winner of more races than I've had roast dinners, New Zealand professional triathlete, friend of the podcast, Hayden Wilde, the Falcon. Haydos, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. You're in Belgium. You're just saying you're having a tasty dinner with the grandparents. How's that?
Yeah, dude. Oh, it was great. Orpa cooked up a storm as always. He normally cooks this like pigeon, like a pigeon style slow cooked meal, but he's brought out the chicken today, so he's got the big guns.
Okay.
More so because he hadn't trapped any pigeons to kill, so we didn't have any pigeons left.
Well, I know that the natural predator or the prey of the falcon is in fact pigeons, so it makes sense that you're tucking into those smaller birds, mate.
Exactly, mate. Tell you what.
How you been, mate? Though, so we caught up in Malibu a few weeks ago, where you obviously got the win at the Super League race, which was a good, fun weekend. But how you been since then?
Yeah, good. Just kind of like, oh man, like it was a pretty big trip. Like I didn't even like kind of want to go to LA just because I was still sick. Like
I
I
don't think
was,
anybody wants to go to
I got
LA.
it. Like, yeah, let's go to Malibu. Where's that? LA. Oh, I'll
Mm,
pass.
yeah.
But I was in the airport the week on the Thursday before the race, in London. I was like, oh, I don't know if it would be a good idea for me to get the flight. I came late because I didn't want to get anyone sick in Super League, but also it's just like it was just all on the head, like with the head cold, so it was a bit crap. But I got on the flight anyway. Had a good sleep to LA. Got off the plane on Thursday, Friday, chilled, raced Saturday, and then got home Sunday. And that was a big trip because I went to London and then I just like had the day in London to do some admin, caught a flight to Toulouse, drove from Toulouse to Andorra, and I think I've probably been up longer than 24 hours at this point. And then I got home, and I swear to God, I like cooped out for about 15 hours of sleep. It was fantastic.
Mate,
But other than that, yeah, I moved out of Andorra just for the rest of the like few months to head back to New Zealand for Christmas, and then I'll come back to Andorra next year, probably around March. So that's the
yeah.
plan.
It's good. It's going to be good to get you back down here now. I was going to say, you think about you had a rough trip back. Put in the fact that I had about 50,000 drinks that night after the race, and then I had to get on a plane. That
Well, you're
Sunday was a rough day for
oh
me.
man, yeah, well, because I packed my bag and I was literally in bed because I knew I had a big day the next day, and then I get a text from Cassandra Grant, nickname Kassan, and she's like, "Oh, you've got to come out." I'm like, "Nah, I'm pretty tired. Like, it's been a big few days." And she's like, "Nah, you're coming." I'm like, "Nah, where is it?" She's like, "Oh, get an Uber. It's 10 minutes." I'm like, "Oh, nah, I'll just gonna have an early night. Got to watch Hannah race because Hannah was my partner was racing at like 4 a.m. So I was going to get up and watch. And she's like, "Don't be that boring." I'm like, "Oh," and then she got me there. Like I just got yeah, suffocated into people peer pressure, and then I got there, and then straight away, um, Tim Ford, this random dude that decided to turn up and be our manager, was like, "Oh, what are you drinking?" "Oh, yeah, I just have a gin and tonic," and then there's two shots in front of me, and didn't take them, but somehow feed them off to two other athletes.
I think Dan Dixon copped a fair few of them, to be honest, but it was
Oh, did he ever? Did he ever? Him and Holland.
they were right. It was good. No, that was a good night. But yeah, my trip back to Australia was a little less than ideal, I'll be honest. And the same thing, I think I got home and it took me about 4 days to recover. But I'd gotten home from Europe to Australia and I was here for like 4 days, and then I jumped on the plane to Malibu and it was brutal. But a wonderful, wonderful weekend. But
Yeah,
look, you've had a interesting year this year. It's definitely been a year of ups and downs. For the Falcon, we saw you sort of start the year, and it was Abu Dhabi, I think, at the start, right, where you had a rough start, you had a mechanical.
because yeah. Abu Dhabi mechanical. Not this. It wasn't really. It was like it wasn't really great day because like New Year coming off a crap grand final because of COVID from 2022, and then 2023 new bike partner, boom, puncher, shit.
Welcome to Hayden Wilde's support world. There we go. I'm adding value for my sponsors. Plenty of time
I'll
on the
tell you
front
what,
rows.
the boys, like, because like Kenyon came over with us, which was great. So I had a mechanic there because obviously new to the bike. So if something went wrong, I didn't really know what to do. So it was cool. They brought a mechanic over, but it was just annoying because it was nothing wrong with the bike. It was just the tires, and unfortunately that tire brand that we were using, which I don't use anymore, a lot of the pros were having issues with them. But they were like prototypes, so a lot of the like Moby Star guys were using them, and then the same thing happened to me because it was just sitting in transition. It was just like losing air for no random reason. Got on the bike, boom, like just 10 psi, 1 bar for whoever that talks in bar. And I was like, well, I'm going nowhere. But still raced, to be fair, still raced pretty well. Like I held, like I held the gap and bridged up to Gustav's group of 4 guys solo by myself with I think I had I asked for a SRAM, a SRAM cassette, and they gave me a Shimano, like, I don't know, rubber tire wheel looking thing. So I had to Kona Abu Dhabi race course with this kind of tram Shimano combo, and it just the gears just weren't there, and I think it was like a 10 speed on a 12 speed cassette. And
Oh, mate. Walking uphill both ways to school barefoot in the snow. It's just, mate, it's hard work. I get it. It's hard.
It still ran well, but I was 2 minutes behind at that point, so it didn't really matter.
Well, we are sort of at the end of the, I guess, the short course season for this year in a lot of ways. For you, we've seen the grand final. We saw the Olympic test event. Like I sort of said, it's been far from a seamless year for you. You've definitely had a few little hurdles that came up. But look, putting aside, I suppose, the dramas, the Olympic test event, Paris, I still think probably one of the most scenic looking triathlon courses we've ever seen. What was it like to experience that, the race that's going to be the Olympics next year? Compare that course to, I guess, Tokyo. But how'd you find the actual course?
Yeah, other than having a cry at the start because I decided to crash my bike before the race, it was nice to get on the course.
A theme here, a little bit.
chuck it on, chuck it on top. Yeah, so if people didn't know, I decided to crash my bike a few hours before the race because it was 5:30 in the morning. It was a bit dark, and Paris have these amazing bike paths, but they kind of have a curbing which blends into the road. And I was just so focused on the race and not what I was doing in the present, and was like, oh, I'll just go around these barriers that are blocking off the bike path because that's where the bike course was. So I'll just turn right, and decided to go into the curbing and crash at about 5 kilometers an hour, landed right on my hip and pissed everything off, and couldn't run for 2 weeks after that. But anywho, it's interesting because it's a very tide, like a current. It's very tight, like a tide driven river.
Mm-hmm.
So, you say 4 milliseconds of, I guess, river movement. You think that's nothing, but we did 450 meters with an average speed of 55 per 100. I don't swim under 60-second.
I was going to say, mate, the training must be going well for you. So
I was like, I don't. Your boy here does not swim under 60-second per hundreds at all, depending if it's a wetsuit. And but we came back at like 120 pace, so that's like a huge factor of essentially how the race could go. And then the bike it's fast. Like it would be very hard to have a breakaway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too fast. So I think it would favor those athletes that are a lot bigger, that are good, that have good like aerodynamics, that have good power to weight. But it's just so flat and fast. Like if you're an 80 kg short course athlete and you can push 400 watts and not have like a Magnus deadlift size. Like if you're a guy that can just rip watts out, you've got to bridge any gap. Like it's just too flat. But it's really cool. Like it's like scenic wise, you go up the Champs-Élysées probably halfway and go over some famous bridges. It's not too narrow, which is really nice. You got a lot of area to play with. And then I did a walking lap because for some reason, like when I started swimming, my hip was quite painful. I biked, but the harder I biked, the better it was because it was kind of like keeping the muscles engaged.
Yep.
But as soon as I started freewheeling, it was just like, it was real bad. So I was just like, all right, I'll just sit on the front the whole race. It'll be fine. And then started running. Didn't really work out, but at least I kind of walked a lap to check it out. And I guess, like it's not a big cobble section. They've like put a lot of whole brand new pave on the opposite side of the river, so that makes it fast. So there's a little cobble section which kind of fatigues you a little bit, but like once again, I think if Alex had someone there to really push him, like it would be a very fast course. Like it's extremely flat. The only uphills you have are like a 2% gradient of a little bridge, and that's about it. But it's a good course. It's fast. It's scenic. It's very spectator friendly. It's gonna be super nice.
Does it suit Hayden Wilde? Like, did you walk away from that? Obviously gathering the data. I think that was probably a main experience for a lot of the athletes going there. But did you walk away with a better sense of it? Do you think that it's a course that is going to suit you next year? Like, what are your thoughts around the course for you specifically?
Yeah, I think specifically it's as an athlete that likes to drive pretty hard on the bike and having a decent power to weight ratio. I think it suits me pretty well, especially if there is a gap that I need to bridge. I've got, obviously Kenyon, just a real good team. So I can get pretty dialed on the road bike and get into a really nifty position to bridge a gap, but also use the power that I've got on the bike to kind of cater with that. So yeah, I really enjoy the course because you can, even though it's a fast course, there's a few corners there, but you can hit them pretty hard. And if you know how to ride on cobbles, you can kind of grab a few seconds here, there, and everywhere as well. Because it's about a K. Yeah, it's about a K and a half, maybe more or less, of a cobble section. But it's like Champs-Élysées cobbles. So if you're not pushing big power, you're not going anywhere. So that suits me quite well. And yeah, like the Olympic race is always a bit different, with the quality of field is the best of the best, but also the quality of field is it's only a maximum to about 50 athletes as well, where we normally race with about 68 more or less. So having 20 guys less on the start is actually quite nice. There's a bit more there's a bit less kind of bullying in the water, less guys around the boys. And it's just kind of I think it just opens up the field a lot more. I think that's why you see big gaps in the Olympics, in Rio and all that sort of stuff, is just because the quality of field's a little bit smaller. And there's kind of those athletes out there to fill those gaps. So you're really going to be on it.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is you're not just looking at it's not the best of the best like you have at a WTCS event, because you've got the selection criteria and you can only have certain athletes from certain countries. If you look at, France, for example, at the moment.
Oh man, that's terrible, isn't it? Like the selectors have to either choose Vince or Leo, because Dorian's qualified and Pierre's qualified, and it's like, oh crap.
I know, and that's what you sort of see at the Olympics, right? While it is the pinnacle of the sport, you don't actually end up getting probably the strongest field just because of those restrictions. For yourself,
it's a shame.
Yeah, mate. And I mean, look at what happened to Taylor Spivey last Olympics. Like, it was heartbreaking.
Shocker. Yeah.
How about you? A bronze medalist, obviously one of the top ranked athletes, a favorite for the gold in Paris. Like, have you been given where are you at in terms of qualification? How much certainty do you have in preparing for the biggest race of the year next year?
Like, I've just got to be I guess I just got to be confident in the results I had throughout the year. Like, my automatic qualification was a podium at any World Series and a podium at the Paris test event, which obviously I did not do. So it's impossible for me to qualify automatically. So it'll go down to discretion. But I have got the B criteria, and I'm the only New Zealander that has the B criteria, which is 2 top 8s in a World Series. So yeah, I think it's 2 top 8s, but it's definitely 2 top 8s or 10s or something.
In terms of communicating though, one of the things that obviously I've been having these conversations with a fair few short course athletes recently, you guys need, I'm shocked at the lack of certainty you're given, considering it is such a big race to prepare for. Like, what's the communication like with you and Tri New Zealand? Like, are they telling you, look, it's yours, or do you not hear much, or how do they communicate that with you guys?
It's a shame, especially with I can't go too much. I guess I can't go too much into it, but ideally, you just it's like what happened in Tokyo, I had to get into a position that I could not be selected. And I think that's, especially with the big countries, that's what you just got to do when you've got a lot of people going for it. You've just, there's races inside the race, for me, I've done pretty well in the last 2 years. So I think my Olympic ranking is number 1 or number 2 overall. So that kind of gives me that certainty that I hope I get that one of the 2 spots in New Zealand. There could be a very big out chance that New Zealand could get 3, and then if we get 3, politics leaves the party, because there's only essentially 3 New Zealand athletes that are in the photo with myself, Taylor, and Dylan. But currently Dylan and Taylor are, they're racing, very similar. Their strengths lie exactly the same. They're 2 extremely good swimmers. They're 2. I think Dylan's probably a better cyclist, where Taylor's just, he's just there in the bike. So you're not really getting dropped if you're a good enough cyclist. And then like I think Taylor's Mr. Consistent, where he runs pretty consistently in every single race.
Yep.
So he's going to go out and he's going to run like a 31-minute 10K like all the time. Where
Yeah.
Dylan, he's still young, he still has that learning some experience, but he could go out and he could run like a low 31, or he might be a little bit behind and run like a low 32. But results shown that he's beaten Taylor, I think, in the last few races individually, but unfortunately hasn't been given too many opportunities in the mixed team relay. Just because Montreal, that was an unfortunate event where the race was cancelled due to the fires.
Yep.
He had food poisoning in Sunderland, so he couldn't race there, and I was sick in Sunderland, so I actually went up to him and said, "Hey, like you need opportunities to race. Take my spot." And so he actually got the spot. He took my spot, but he couldn't race because he had food poisoning, so I had to race instead, which I was kind of gutted about because I didn't want to race just due to because I was quite sick. And then like they just haven't had that opportunity to race each other in the mixed relay. But Taylor is just like, you see it in Super League, he's
Right up
just
there.
something flicks a switch inside him, and he just becomes undoubtedly one of the best mixed relay athletes out there. He can swim a 15-second gap. If we're behind, he can bike strong enough to stay there. And then his 1500 meters, like it just comes out of nowhere, like it's quick, it's damn quick.
I mean,
And that's what kind of puts him a little bit in front of Dylan, just because he has that experience, and the New Zealand criteria is very heavily weighed on mixed team relay currently. So
yeah.
I'd hate to be in that kind of fight between Dylan and Taylor. They're both my mates, and I respect them both, but like unfortunately it's going to come down to, I think, potentially a political thing. But yeah, you hope it doesn't. You hope you just get the guy that is just the best. Unfortunately, they're very similar, so you've got to kind of choose.
I mean, for yourself, as I sort of said earlier, like a favorite for the the potentially the gold medal in Paris. Do you think there's any consideration given to that? Like, I know that speaking with Kyle Smith, who was at the start of this year making a crack at trying to get to the Olympics, he was saying, to me, it's about assisting Hayden. Like, I want to be there to basically be Hayden's domestique. Is that something, do you think they take into consideration, or is all the focus on that mixed team relay? What do you think?
Yeah, like in our criteria, we pushed for it, but I had a good conversation with my coach, and we had some good talks about the season and what happened, and we learned some stuff about ourselves. And like, I already knew it, but like, I'm just an enemy to myself in some ways, where I've always been a guy that does his own thing and trains by himself. And in some ways that has, it's made me, I'm a victim to my own, I guess, success, where I just like training by myself. I don't like training with others. It's
I'm
not
the
because I
same,
don't
man.
like anyone.
I get it.
I know,
get it.
it's just like I like it. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and but that also puts that kind of feel on the other team, the rest of the team. Like, if there was a potential of having that domestique role, which I don't potentially think there will be, just because I don't think I'm very good mates with both of them personally, but like at a deeper level, like I've never trained with them. We've never hurt together in some ways, like in training. So there's just that deep connection where they would sacrifice their own race for me. That I had a talk with that with my coach, and it's more so because I'm a victim to my own training regime. And I think, my Craig was like, "Oh, it might be hard for you to hear this," but I was like, "Nah, like it's the truth, and I kind of know that." So yeah,
Well, that's interesting.
yeah, like it's tough, like, and more so, like, I really want to go for the medal, but I think I'll be, potentially just doing it myself, and I don't, if one of the other boys were in the potential of, really pushing hard for a medal, and I really want them both to do extremely well. Like, I don't want them to sacrifice their race for me. Like, that would be awesome, but like, the deep down inside, I want to do it myself. But also, I don't want to hinder their performance because at the end of the day, it's like a 4-year build to get to that position, and to lay it all on the line for a guy that's potentially going to be hit or miss in the swim. It's tough. If they're up the road, shit, just go for it. Like, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, especially in New Zealand, where like, oh, the boys should drop back and go and help our prospect medalist and all that. But it's like, well, like, unfortunately, triathlon is just so individualized currently, and that's one thing the French are just so good at. Like, they'll just sacrifice their own race to win the medal, and they've shown they cut that once or twice already, and even the Brits as well. They're building a team around Alex to do that. So, like, I think in the last few years, it's definitely been quite eye opening. Just looking at like me versus Team GB versus Team France. But I think that's what it's going to be like, and yeah, that is what it is. And hopefully, I can just use Team Britain's resources and use their domestics.
I mean, you speak about having that conversation. So Craig, your coach, obviously, people know Craig's one of the best coaches in short course at the moment. The success that he's had with you and guys like Sam Turner and that. But like, that must be a pretty confronting sort of conversation to have with Craig. Literally, like, is that the sort of relationship you have? Is it very warts and all? Is it?
We've got a super good relationship. Like, I think that's what, like, if we're on Friday nights, or Thursdays actually, we have run club. No, Friday run club. Yeah, we have run club, and run club essentially means we go next door, because he lives right beside a bar, and we just go and have a beer with the boys. And like, I'm the youngest by probably about 25 years, but shit, I enjoy it and it's good fun. But that's the sort of relationship we have. It goes further than just kind of training peaks, which is nice. And it's always good to be real, because I think it keeps you pretty grounded, and to have those honest conversations. Like, I think you need to have that with your coach, especially when you're in a high performance level. Like, sometimes if there's things that you need to discuss and your coach doesn't say it, like, I think that will just hinder your performance. Where his honesty like that is great, because it's like, well, he is true. To be fair, like, if I was more involved in the group and more of a team player, I might have that potential of a domestique role, but in reality, you kind of just put yourself into your own little box and try and do your own thing. Like, it's good to have those conversations, I think, and it's eye opening too. But I like having an honest circle around me, because I feel like that just makes me like a better athlete. Where, like, I feel like if you have a team around you, like, oh, you're amazing, oh, you're just doing fine as you is, like, I just don't feel like you'll ever improve. Where you've got guys like continuously in the background just working hard to just make me better, because I know that I have areas where I can be better, whether it's tactically, whether it's
not crashing your bike before the test event, for example.
Exactly. Like, I've got good people around me to kind of keep me level headed and just keep me, as I was. And like, I had a debrief, like, personally by myself, after Pontevedra and what happened. And, I think just like dropping the cap and being a little bit complacent and all that. But just that race itself, like, I knew that I was going for the world title, and I knew, like, it would have been nice to have some help in that group. I didn't get a lot of help, but I knew I was, they all knew that I was going for the world title, so I wasn't going to stop driving. But, that race really kind of reminded me of, where I first started. I went to Japan. I was a shit kicker swimmer. I was always, even a sprint distance, I was a minute behind coming out of these European, Asian Cups, and I just have to work my ass off on the bike to then get to the front and then run my ass off. And that's literally what I did in Pontevedra. And it just reminded me a little bit of that. I've still got that fight that I had when I first tried to get myself into a professional scene in triathlon. And that was actually really, like, personally, it was actually really nice to see that, because I did everything I could on the bike. I swam to what I could do to be in the best position. Tactically, I should have done some things differently in the swim, but that's another story. But just having that fight all the way, like, I could have given up easily and not really worry about it. But, I kept fighting to the end. Like, I know I had a penalty. Who cares? Like, just flick it back and carry on. And yeah, just keep pushing, and it just reminded me like the old days, and it's just really nice that I've still got that fight, because I feel like sometimes when people have success, they forget who they were years and years ago.
Mm.
You know, I can afford to go to another race. It's fine. Like, you know, just put that one into the locker and, you know, forget about it. Where like it just reminded me of those races, like, you know, in Japan when I was fighting for those points. Like you know, I knew that if I wasn't going to do well in a race, like that was the end. So it was just nice to kind of have that fight still.
You know, you sort of touched on it then. There's something I'd like to, I guess, unpack a little bit more, because you were talking a lot about, you know, you're sort of a victim to your own regime a little bit, particularly in New Zealand. But look, I'm not going to pretend like I haven't heard that, you know, people say you're a very competitive guy. Sometimes they think you may be a bit too aggressive. You know, you're not out there necessarily to make friends on the race course. But do you think that the fact that you've had the success you've had, like, do you feel like there's a target on your back? Do you feel like you get in a situation like you were in Pontevedra and the other guys are a bit like, fuck Hayden? Like, you know, does that motivate you? Does it make you angry? Do you think it's unfair? Like, how do you react to that sort of reaction?
Yeah, like I don't know, like I feel like we were biking pretty hard. Like, you know, I was not seeing any numbers not under 360 watts for most of the race on my power. And you know, it was a hard race for everyone. It's been a long season, and I just think people in the group physically just couldn't pull. Like I was like pushing pretty hard, and I was trying to get people rolling. But you know, I was looking at people's, like, if I look, you know, when I did a reassess, look back, and like people look pretty cooked, and you could see at the run times, like, you know, there was definitely guys in that group that did not pull at like one turn at all. It's like, come on, it's a flat course, 100% you could have pulled. Like,
Yep.
but there was also people, you know, as I said, there was races and races where you know, there was people in my group where they were actually racing other athletes and from their own country in that group. So they're like, well, I'm racing another dude from Hungary here. Why I'm not going to pull a turn because I've got to beat this guy to get my Olympic qualification. So that's when it becomes a little bit like there's so much you can do and there's so much barking you can do in the peloton, I guess. And yeah, like of course, like everyone knows that I'm quite an aggressive racer, but like I'm not going out there and you know, just ripping people apart, like, you know,
Ali Brownlee used
talking
to.
crap. Yeah, like not talking crap about their mums or anything. I just go up to them and just say, pull a effing turn, and that's about it. And then I normally go up to them afterwards and apologize. And like, you know, you get a bit heated on the race course, but I'm never going to like threaten anyone or do anything like that. But
Maybe
you
that's
know,
the
you
missing
just
link,
try and
mate.
push.
Maybe you need to.
I know it
What
is.
did you
It
do?
is. People aren't scared of me. I'm just like always got to the race. I'm like, sorry, dude. Like I remember this. I remember like Elam Holland and I are like a pretty good mates now. And I remember a few years ago it was like a mixed team relay in Hamburg, and he always reminds me about it. It's quite funny. And we're in this group, and I was just like, no one was working, and there's like a group. I think it was like Vince and stuff up the road, and this mixed relay, and France was leading, and I was like barking out. I was like, "Oh, Bob, flipping doing," and like went up to them, and Elam was like, "But we're just not going to pull a turn because you just got to run away from us." I'm like, "Yeah, but I want you to suffer at least." And he was like, "Okay," and then so he pulled a turn anyway. But so yeah, it's funny, and like, you know, you build character when you're in the group, and when you're in the front group, it's all like, you know, roses and daisies and stuff, and you have a bit of a laugh with the boys when you're the front group, but when you're trying to bridge gaps, you're just like, you're working. If you're not working, you're my worst enemy.
Well, it's interesting talking about the barking, because I think as an observer, right? Obviously, I love watching the short course, and I've seen, you know, I think the last probably 18 months, we've seen, you know, you and Alex basically have the races go the way they're ideal for you. You know, you guys rip the bike, get off the bike together, and then it's a run battle. And I think Pontevedra was fascinating, right? Because I've been quite vocal saying if people want to beat you and Alex, that lead group needs to organize and stay away. And we just haven't really seen it. We see it once a year. It seems to always happen in the grand final. Like,
Yeah, dude, honestly.
we used to, I know but we used to have that Ali Brownlee sort of character at the front. You know, he'd be in that lead swim group, and he would organize that group and fucking like, let's rip it. Do you think that, is there a character in that front group who could take up that mantle? Do you think there is a person who could be that leader in the front group to try to keep away from you and Alex? Or are you just like, I don't think we need to worry about it because there's not a strong enough character for it?
I just don't think there's a strong enough character. Like, I know Vince. Like when on my podcast, I talked to Vince, and I know he had a discussion with with Leo, and Leo's a real good mate of mine, and he's just not he will work. Like my like aim in life is to be a good enough swimmer to swim with Leo and just rip the crap out of a bike course with him, because you've seen it in Toulouse, you've seen it in Malibu, and we just work so well together. Every time after race, I'm just like, oh man, that was great, wasn't it? Whenever we get like a group together, we did it in Yokohama, the same thing. Like, we stung people's legs together, and I think our bike abilities are pretty similar technically and strength wise, and like, yeah, he's just such a nice dude, but he's just like I guess he's just not vocal enough, and that's what Vin said. Like, mate, you're a world champ. Like, tell these guys to work. Like, get them moving. But then you've got like guys that are coming back in, like Martin doing like a Hail Mary, and he thinks the only way that he's going to get an Olympic medal would be just completely destroying himself on the bike and hoping he's got a gap. But yeah, like, you've got great swim bikers in that group, but I just don't think there's someone that's like an Ali that has taken up the mantle and really kind of push, because you've got Christian that shouts at himself, and when he gets pissed off, he'll shout at you. But then you've got myself. Exactly. And then you've got myself that will bark, and then you've got Yellow Gaines, who doesn't bark too much, but he will always work. So you've got guys in the chase group that are just gonna work their ass off until they get to the front. And I think that's why it always comes together, because you've just got 6 guys that are just super motivated to just bury themselves for a good 20K of the 40K and just get to the group. And yeah, like, I think the swimming is just becoming a lot more closer now. Like, there's some races where I come up 50th, but I'm like 30 seconds behind. I'm like, wow, I can bridge that gap like by myself comfortably. And I've done that where, like, it used to be if I came up 50th, which is nearly 10th to last, like, I'm nearly 2 minutes behind. Like, you just don't get that anymore. Like, the biggest gap you'll probably see these days is 1:10, which is just not enough. Like, I think, what was it? What race was it? I think it was last year, Yokohama. I had like a minute behind, and I just like ripped my legs off for a good 20, probably 15K, and bridged the gap just because it was a technical course, and there was a big group in front, and it was just a big kind of snake. So it was kind of like a little bit easier to get on, because it was just that kind of that yo-yo effect that I got into the group. But it's, if you just like put your head down and just like absolutely rip yourself in half for like a good 20K, you'll probably make the group, if you're willing to do that. But I just feel like also a lot of people just look around and think about the run too much. Like, oh, it's going to come a running race, I need to save my legs, and I don't know, attempt to beat these runners. That I think is also a thing too.
Do you have a little something you say to them when you rock up, like, I'm back, boys, or thanks for waiting for me, or like, do you have some little like, here I am, like, yeah, I'm back, like anything like that, just to really fuck them when you get up to them, or their heads?
I was like, right, boys. I was like, sometimes like, right, boys, let's go, let's do it. I'm here.
Who are the most vocal people in the field? Like, it's one of the things I love. I love watching the blow-ups between you guys. It's like, I feel like I wish World Triathlon focused a bit more on it, because like, I honestly, I still think some of my favorite moments in short course history is just watching Ali Brownlee absolutely spray people. That grand final on the Gold Coast, where he actually, I think, got disqualified for cutting the course, but he's on the bike, and Tyler, he's just given Tyler mouthfuls, and Tyler's like laughing at him. Like, I love that stuff. Who do you think? Who are the most vocal people in the field these days?
Like, I just don't think there's a big vocalist. Like, I'm probably one of the biggest vocalists, but it's not aggressive. Like, it's just like, pull a turn. Like,
we need to bring it back, mate. We need to make this a thing again. Like, we need to start firing up these boys and being like, come on, guys.
Just start getting some sledging lines from the cricket pitch. Like, I could bring the cricket pitch to the course,
mate. I'd love
but
it.
It just depends if they can. It just depends if they can understand my English.
Do you think, because you were talking about it earlier though, like, we know that the sport of triathlon is always in this constant struggle, right, between trying to make the sport, not only successful in terms of great racing, but this broadcast package. And I love it, but mate, World Triathlon is not the most exciting race in these days, because whether it's the broadcast, the commentary, whatever. But you were talking right about in Pontevedra as an example, where you've got these guys who've got the race inside the race because they're so focused on trying to get their points. Do you think that this is holding back the sport? Because you go to something like Super League and there's not so much of that, and you guys just rip it. Like, do you think that there is World Triathlon too complicated these days? Do you think that sort of system is limiting the ability to see really exciting race, or do you think it doesn't really matter?
In some ways, like it's 50-50 because like, yeah, like especially Olympic qualifying, like you're not going to get, say, if like all the Germans are in the same group, like and if they're in the same group, like 100% they're not going to touch the front. Like, why would you touch the front? You're racing a dude that's not pulling a turn, so why would you pull a turn? Like, it's just not going to happen. And that sometimes does burden the race a little bit, but like, I don't know, there's a few things like the courses are a bit dull, like they're just flat, a little boring. Like Pontevedra could have been sick. Like make it like I was there with Harvey for a week and did some like epic riding there, and holy, like it's just so nice. Like I don't know, like there's not a lot. Okay, like if you're not doing a big city circuit or something like in like the Hamburgs or the Leeds or anything, you're not going to get a lot of people watching live like at the venue. Like, so why not just do like and I've talked about this on my podcast as well. It's like get some savage bike courses. I don't know. Doesn't have to be a crit race. Like it can be a double transition. Like chuck us up in the hills.
Like the Rio course to that huge climb that they went up like 6 times or something. Like rips
exactly.
the race
like
apart.
Just like it's like we go to Abu Dhabi and like there's just going to be no one on the F1 course anyway. So like, why not just like, I don't know, put us up like one of the last climbs. Like obviously it's quite hard because it's in the middle of the desert. But for example, like we could just do such a sick course in Abu Dhabi. Like there's some sick facilities there. But then also like there's just other races that could be so cool as well. Like maybe influencing more kind of double transitions and if we swim in a lake and just rip it into like a town or something like Leeds, like you have a 20k lead into a town, then you do a 20k crit circuit, or like you do like a Kitzbühel where you just like climb up a 1900 meter climb and then you're at the top. Like I don't know, like there's definitely some ways where you can have races where it suits different athletes, like suits the cyclists, it suits the runners. You can have so much fun with it. Like it doesn't have to be like, because I know they invest a lot on broadcast and they have a great social media team, but it's just like giving like just like it would be so hard for like Trevor and Helen it's hard for them to kind of commentate because in reality there's just not a lot going on. I kind of sat down and looked and I was like, oh man, like their job must be pretty hard because like even I struggle to watch an Olympic distance. I've got it on like ×2, like fast forward just to kind of see some pinpoints.
Exactly. Get the swim, watch the Aussie exit, onto the bike, and then I sort of watch it from there. It's. I mean, look, because I think this is not unique to short course. I think this is a triathlon problem at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I feel very much like the obsession with the specific distances, the sprint, the Olympic, the 70.3, the Ironman, is much more of an age group restriction, right? Like I feel like for the age group, as I understand it, like myself, I do 70.3s. I like to compare my 70.3 time race to race to race. I don't particularly care where I place. I feel like for the pros, I don't think it doesn't need to be as consistent, right? Like I would actually like to really see the courses to be purpose built around exciting race. And maybe the swim is 1900 meters one time. Maybe it is 800 meters one time. Maybe the bike course is 60K. Maybe it is 30K. Like, do you feel like the sport, because the sport relies so much on that mass participation, and even short course does? Like I know that the races you go to don't always have an age group element, but Pontevedra did. I think Hamburg did. We see it there. Do you feel like there's this opportunity to change that?
Yeah, I think there's specific courses where it'd be nice to keep it crit. So like Hamburg, so iconic, it's a great course, but also it's got that attachment of the age group. So kind of leave it as is. Like it's fair. Like I think it stays as is, but there's so many other opportunities where you can, and that's what we were talking about with like my brother and stuff. Like, what there should be more races where we don't care about what the distance is, just like go Hail Mary and just do something different. Like do like a 2K swim or whatever, or 1500 meter swim. More it's like what Xterra does. Like they always say, all right, the race is going to be between 1K to 1500 meters. The bike is going to be I don't know, depending how hard the bike is, it's going to be 24K to 40K.
A relevant
And
factor,
then,
right? That makes more sense.
yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
look at the
And
intensity
then,
and then
yeah,
impact the
exactly.
distance. Yeah, rather than go, no, we have to be
Exactly.
40K.
Yeah. And just like change it up a bit. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like it's, yeah, like as long as it's 2 hours or as long as it's 1 hour, I think that should be the point. Like, an Olympic distance and a sprint distance, like keep it the time span, but like, zust it up a bit, like maybe you might race for 2 hours 10, you might race for 45 minutes, you might race for and 90 minutes, just like change it up a bit, do something different. I don't know, just kind of try and spark something, and that might flock more interest maybe. But it's hard, especially when one of the biggest areas of triathlon just have no clue what the heck's going on. Like America, like they just do not care about short course at all. Like
Do you
we're in
think that
Malibu and
maybe Taylor Nibb and Morgan Pearson and that might have something, maybe if they have because I mean, I think Morgan Pearson's a real, like, I think he's got a real shot at a medal. Do you think that sort of success will help with that? Like, I mean, Taylor Nibb is
I hope
crushing
so.
it. Do you think, maybe there'll be a bit
like
more momentum or?
I've said all the time, like Morgan's a big threat, and no one really talks about it, but it's like, yeah, dude, like the dude can run, like, and he can
That
swim,
101
and he
half
can
marathon is fucking mind blowing.
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
and he can swim too. Like he's always he's shown that he can go front group, and I think it also like Morgan's like a bit quiet, so like Morgan's quiet. Taylor Nibb's very, I guess, her personality. She's quite out there and she loves it. Especially if you start getting her talking. But it's how they promote it. Like that's the biggest thing. Like I think it's so hard because you've had Katie and you've had Gwen, and they're quite vocal about short course and women, and but like I don't know, there just hasn't been, like, they just don't have someone that's just like a Lionel, for example, like really vocal and getting out there and just like, this
So
is short course.
what you're saying, we need to start a petition to get Sam Long racing short course then, because he's pretty vocal,
just
mate.
get
So
the dude in, dude.
let's do it.
Like,
come on, Sam Long, let's get you coming to the short course, mate. Here you go,
no
Hayden. Call
offense.
him out, mate. Come on.
Tell you what, no offense, Sam Long, but I was in Abu Dhabi like a year ago, and then this dude came up, like when I just got off the bike, and he was just like, yo, 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 and I was like, what? And he was like, you're Sam Long, aren't you? I'm like, oh my god.
It must be the swim, mate. They must have seen you swim and thought you guys are comparable.
I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take the bike power off the dude, but like, I don't know. I met him a few times. I met him at Collins Cup A as a character, but yeah, like it was just funny. But yeah, we just need, like, I don't know, we just need more promotion into it. Like this Sam, like personalities like Sam Long. We just don't have. Yeah, like it's harder for World Triathlon as well because they've got all this opportunity and they've got a great social media team, but they've just got like short course people just like have no personality. Like even Tim, what's his name? Albert went up to Christian and he was like, all right, give me the best personalities in short course. And Christian said 5 people, like Matt Hauser and the Vinces and like those people. But there's a lot of people that just aren't like super vocal. And I think there just needs to be maybe a little more vocalism in World Triathlon that would actually just help our sport. But I don't know.
Not just off the course, but on the course, as I was saying earlier. We need to get it ripping.
Exactly, mate.
We should mic you guys up. There we go. That's the idea. We should actually put microphones on your bikes and have you guys fucking fucking listen here, dog. Have a fucking dig, mate.
Well, it's like when you watch like rugby or something, and they just or cricket, and they just mic you up, and you can just hear them sledging along, and it's fantastic.
Again, there we go. We've cracked. Here you go, Hayden. We've done the Lord's work. We've cracked the code for short course broadcasting.
How good would that be?
Now
on your left.
Yeah, get out of the fucking way. Take a turn. You swim shit, your dog. Yeah, mate. I love that. The Australians and Kiwis would. There'd be a lot of beeping. They put out the documentary thing about the Malibu round this week, and you can hear me being beeped out a fair few times because I was standing on the side of that course. Fucking go! Don't you fucking stop barking at you guys. Your short course season is coming to a close soon. You've obviously got the grand final coming up in a few weeks in Neon, but after that, you're turning your attention to a bit of longer distance racing because New Zealand is hosting the 70.3 World Championships next year in Taupo. I know the correct way to pronounce it. Now, you
Impressive.
are, you are not a newbie to middle distance racing. We know you've done several 70.3s in the past, including the Collins Cup a couple of years ago. I think you've done Tauranga once, Taupo once.
Yeah, Tauranga. Come on,
Tauranga.
brother.
Sorry, yeah, I got Taupo, but then I messed up Tauranga. Where do you see, you obviously got the Olympics next year. Do you see yourself becoming one of those, I guess we call them a hybrid athlete? Do you want to do more
Oh, I'd
70
love,
racing, or what's
yeah,
the
I'd love to
plan?
be a hybrid. I'd love to be a hybrid. Like, I don't know if once I complete my goals in short course, like, I don't know, like, it's just for me, like, I just love the individual pursuit of just finding different goals. And like, I feel like if you get a gold medal in the Olympics and you get a world title in short course, there's nothing else you can do. Like, that's it. So like, I'd love to go long course because there's just like so many different courses and opportunities. And I don't know, for me, it's like nice because I get to swim up in the front group for once in my life,
A novelty.
but also like I can, like, whatever happens on the bike, that's on me. Like, if I'm not dragging 30 athletes around the course. Like, it's my own doing, which is cool. And then you've kind of just got to battle through a half, which is awesome. And I know I like the half distance, but I've actually never trained for one properly. Like, Collins Cup, that was just kind of, I got asked to do it, and it was 2 weeks out. I was on a TT bike for 8 days, but 2 weeks before the race, I was in bed sick for a week. Like, I was literally like crippled, and I think I lost like 8 kg. So my power to weight ratio was unbelievably good in Collins Cup, but it was not good for a flat course.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I did Topol when like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago.
Where's
I
Kyle?
raced Kyle Smith.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kyle and Maxi.
Yep.
Kyle and
Oh,
Maxi.
Max. Yep.
And that race was like, we were like, oh, do you just want to go and do it? Like, it was a week before the race because Craig was racing and a few other people racing. I was like, oh, why not? Like, he was like, you haven't had a race in a while. Why not? Like, you've had a big block of training, finish it off. Like, it's like, so we didn't taper into it, and like, I didn't properly train for it. So I'd, like, this time, I'm doing Noosa, which is going to be really cool after Neon, but then heading to Melbourne 70.3 and actually like properly training for it. So yeah, well, properly training for it as much as I possibly could have. So getting time on the TT bike, doing some longer tempo runs, and just really enjoying that sort of training. And like, it'd be nice to see how I go in Melbourne. Like, I'd like to really push it hard and go for like, like a course record or something. Would be really cool. But yeah, like, it's for me, it kind of feels like this Melbourne race is kind of like a debut for me in a way, because like, as I said, like, the other races I just did them for training and finishing off a block, and I wasn't properly training for them. So I'm actually really looking forward to racing Melbourne and actually training for something. Training for like a short course, training for like a middle distance race that I actually have focused on. And I kind of have to, because I was born in Taupo, so I kind of have to race.
I think it's a course that really suit you. You talk about sort of achieving everything, and once you sort of hit those goals, looking to move on. You're, I guess, the guy who beat you in Tokyo for the gold medal, Christian. We've seen literally actually achieve everything except for, I guess, the next terrible title in the last couple of years since then.
Yeah, he's not if he goes to X-Tier, I'm 100% going there and just going to block him. I was talking to Harvey. I was like, man, like, you need to win Kona ASAP because you've won everything.
Yeah.
You're like, actually, no, because obviously he's got an Olympic medal, so you can kind of tick that off.
And he would have won it. Or he would have been right up there in 16. Yeah.
100%. He's nearly won or done everything except for obviously like podium or winning Kona. So if he gets there, like, he's kind of the first man to tick that box off. I feel like podiumed in every single major event. Where Christian could potentially like win every single event, but we can't have that.
We can't. But I mean, looking at what he's doing, like, what, as an outsider observing, firstly,
it's insane.
And how do you see his progression coming? Like, he obviously won in Tokyo, and I still think he's going to be a threat in Paris. But like, how have you seen his if you had to evaluate as an objective observer watching his attempt to, I guess, come back down in distance this year? Like, what are your thoughts around it? Is it going well? Do you think it's like, are you looking at him as less of a threat, or do you still think that he's going to be ready to absolutely fire in Paris?
Yeah, it's hard to know because he's had a big schedule this year once again, and there's some short course races he has targeted, but you can see he's not the Christian he was in Tokyo. Like he doesn't have that. He hasn't shown that he has that 10K in him. He might have that 10K in him. It's just that Alex and I have just gone a little bit faster. The swim's gone a little bit faster as well. Yeah, like I don't know. If I look back in the gaps that he's been in the swim, but also in the run, they've been quite like over on the board. They've been very similar from the start of the year till the end of the year. There's been a few races where he's been sick, but it's like as everyone says, you can't ride off a Norwegian. But yeah, like I feel like he's still definitely got a lot to go if he wants to be a threat in Paris. The course suits him, it's flat, so powder weight wise he can just rip it. But it's like, he's definitely lacking that run speed from more like the half Ironmans and the Ironman races, I think. But like potentially that will come in time. But it's kind of saying like Kipchoge, go back on the track for 5,000 meters again and see if you can win it, kind of thing. It's a hard thing to do, like physical wise,
physiologically. So look, we saw Christian come out pre-Olympics. It was actually on this podcast years ago, and he said he's going to win the Olympics and then he's going to go to Kona that year and he's going to win Kona. We laughed at him. He obviously couldn't because of COVID, but he's done his best attempt at it. Let's say you win the gold in Tokyo, not Paris next year, and Ironman reach out and it's like, Hayden Wilde, we've got this idea, mate. We'd like you to come to Kona. What would your response be?
Well,
would you have a crack?
Well, the testing that I've done, well, I don't do testing, but the testing that I have done,
you may or may not have done
one. That I do like one test per year on a big reach. I've been going to Red Bull HQ and they do my lactic testing and stuff, and I have no clue what those numbers mean. But as long as I feel like I'm gassed, I know I've tried pretty hard, and I don't even train with a heart rate, man. Like I don't do science. All I've got is a power meter, and that's all I need. Like, and sometimes my Garmin says I'm at 220 heart rate. I'm at 5-minute pace, for example. But whatever. And I don't know. Anywho, the testing that I've done.
That sounds like James Bell's heart rate, to be honest. I think you were talking.
Exactly. Just walk into the mailbox, mate.
Yeah.
The testing that I've done, I'm an athlete that should be doing long course. So if the opportunity did come, I probably would, because I don't know.
Ironman, cool. Are you hearing this? Ironman, I hope you're listening, because there you go. We could have the gold medalist actually come to Kona, man.
I just had to sort my long distance biking out, because I've got the power on the
Definitely
bike, but it's just the longevity power. Like it's just that, like, I've been doing bike sessions on the TT bike, and it's quite nice because my heart rate, when I do use heart rate, it's exactly the same, because we had to do a test to see what, because
mate, for somebody doesn't do testing, you're talking about a lot of tests all of a sudden. Come on, which is
I did one. This was like 2 years ago. I did some testing, and it was like just seeing if I had the same heart rate power on the TT bike than I had on the road bike, because sometimes it can be different to different athletes, and the power that I push out is the same as on a TT bike, on the road bike, with the same sort of heart rates. So that's great. It just took me a couple of weeks to kind of get the position dialed and stuff. But yeah, exactly. And I don't know, whenever I run off the bike with a TT, I feel like I can just like rip it, which is also potentially a bad thing, because you don't want to rip out a 3-minute K pace on the first Kappa marathon.
I mean, you could, mate. We just don't know how well it would end.
You could.
Some people, I think Alistair Brownlee probably has at some point, to be honest.
Yes.
Maybe in Kona.
But I'd love to. Like, I don't know. I've always wanted to go to Kona for sure.
Do you look at we've seen this wave of, like, currently in Ironman, it seems to be these young guys who haven't gone through the IT or the World Triathlon system. We're seeing people who've sort of skipped what has traditionally been the pathway, do quite well recently. Like as a person, as one of, if not the best short course athletes in the world at the moment, do you look at that and be like, oh boys, you have no idea what's coming? Like, you guys think you're doing well, just wait till we come. Like, honestly, do you look
just
at it?
Well, just as long as we get about 6 minutes on not backyard, on, deadlift in the water, like happy sailings, like he'll put maybe 15 minutes into us on the bike and you hope you can run that
Yeah,
down
because
kind of
you
thing.
guys can't. That's right. Because short course guys can't ride a bike, right? Like that's what I keep hearing.
No, we can't.
Short course
We
guys.
can't push 450 watts for 20 minutes. We're not built for that, mate. But it's like, as I said, it's like I've been doing these like longer bike sessions, and like I've got definitely have the power, but it's like, wow, I don't have that longevity power. Like you just start feeling the big fatigue, like, wow, like this power's meant to be piss easy, but can't do it. But I do. Like I ride with Cam Worth, and he's like, "Nah, mate, fuck, you'll be right. Just rip it. Like you'll be sweet as." And then like, there's a few big athletes that might be racing Melbourne. And I'm not gonna mention names, but he's like, "Oh, this one." I said, "Oh, this one athlete might be racing." He's like, "Oh no, he's a piece of piss for you, mate. You'll be right." I'm like, "Okay."
The last thing, because I know we're doing really well for time, but I just wanted to talk about the thing that we sort of have to talk about at the moment. Is it's been a very, I guess, not a positive year for this. It's been a very tumultuous year for triathlon with obviously the races, and we've had incidents in amateurs dying, Hamburg, the issue on the Ironman. But I think the biggest thing that's happened this year, we saw the Colin Chartier doping issue come out, and it's certainly anytime I'm around a group of athletes, it's something that a lot of people are talking about. What do you think? Like, what's your mood? What's the mood between yourself and the peer? Like, what do you think the mood is in triathlon, especially around the doping thing? Like, do you think it's a good thing that it came out? Like, what are your thoughts around it?
Yeah, like I think it needs oh man, it's a tough one, like I even like it's really frustrating especially for an individual that trains by himself and does everything by himself and not in a group and is doing real successful. You actually do get a little bit of shade. You can kind of feel that you get a bit of shade because like you do everything yourself. Like why don't you invite other people to your training? It's like, I don't know, because I like being like a loner. Like I enjoy training by myself. Like
You're just an asshole, mate.
I
Nobody
don't know.
likes you. Like,
Exactly.
people don't want to. You've tried. You've asked
Exactly.
people. They're just like, fuck Hayden Wilde.
Exactly. But no, it's. I think it was like it's good. It came out because it just shows that I don't know people out. Like it's a shame for the sport for sure, but also it's showing that like the testing is working for one. That triathlon is not as squeaky clean as everyone thinks it is. Like I've been educated like extremely well. With my coach also being part of. He's a tester for Drug Free Sport New Zealand, so like it's not like, for example, like if I say test positive, like it's not my job that's on the line, but it's his job hugely that's on the line. Like not just his training, his athlete training, his training team, but also his actual job on the side is on the line. And that I'd hate to be the person that it made him get fired from a job that he's in, and like I shit myself when I take a paracetamol because I'm feeling like a little ill. Like I just, oh man, it just like freaks the crap out of me. I always try and go food before proteins or anything. Like I'm pretty sure every single time I get tested, like I've got the smallest like supplement sheet you'll see in your life. Like after race, you might have Morton's in there and every so often, but like I don't actually have a lot of recovery stuff. It's normally just chalky milk. And that's really about it. But it's like it's good that it's good that testing's becoming more regularly. Like I feel like there was a period, especially when the Colin stuff was coming out, and I think when there was potentially some investigations around some other athletes, man, I don't know, I have no clue, but I was at one point in 2 months, I was tested out of competition about 4 times in the space of 2 months, and that's not including in competition. So I think in 2 months I was tested about 10 times in the middle of the season, which is great. Like, and I just hope that
really
other athletes are getting. I hope that other athletes are getting that much. And I was talking to Jan because I see him at the pool every so often, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been tested like 4 times this month as well." So like it's great that there's more testing, but like it's like I don't know this. You, it's definitely a thing that you can't do alone, eh? Like I still really don't understand how to do it. Like when I actually read into the Colin Chartier whole scenario thing, and like I didn't actually realize you had to keep the stuff refrigerated and all this sort of stuff. But like I don't know, like if the sample that he tests for, and you had to inject it, like, you're going to be positive, like, I don't know, like, do it non-injective. I don't know, like, when you inject yourself, it's like, oh, you're kind of like, you're doing it now, you're doing it on purpose. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know, but I'm shit scared of needles as well. Like, I kind of freak
Same.
whenever I get the blood testing from the anti-dopers. They're like, oh,
It's
it's
not is it
90
a needle
mils,
still,
please.
or is it I don't think that. Fuck
Yep.
that.
Yeah, well, it's
I
they're like
hate needles.
90 mils, sir. Oh, and we're doing bloods. I'm like, oh shit.
Fuck that. I hate needles so
Really
much.
quick. I'm lucky because my arms are really veiny, so they can find my
Let's
veins
not
pretty
talk
quick.
about.
So
I
I'm
hate
like,
this.
let's get it done.
Yeah, I can't. I hate needles, mate. Look,
Yeah.
Hayden, it's a weird spot to leave it, so I don't want to leave it there. You have
Don't
an
leave it
event.
there.
You have an event coming up in Abu Dhabi. I've seen it all over Instagram. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
Trications.
Yeah. So it's an idea that myself and my manager, but also the Abu Dhabi Sports Council and Abu Dhabi Triathlon wanted to create. Actually last year, I was there for 2 months in my so-called mug mode, and I was there training in the Middle East, and I honestly like absolutely loved it. Like, it was just like a relaxed culture, and I met some like amazing people, and they were like always willing to help. And I was like, why don't we just bring some, why don't we just show people like some facilities here? Like, the facilities are unreal. Like, I was
It's
swimming in a
ridiculous.
50-meter pool by myself like the whole time, and I had like 5 lifeguards just chilling. But like,
Again, mate, I
yeah,
understand. I've seen you swim. I think it's probably
I know it's
appropriate.
terrible. Yeah, fair enough. But it's like the facilities are unreal, and we're like, yeah, let's do a camp. Like, and it actually works quite well because I go to Bahrain to do my Bahrain duties at the half Ironman, and potentially do a leg, and then the week after I'll head to Abu Dhabi, and essentially it's 15 age groupers. And they get to train with me. So, Kenyan are providing the bikes. So Kenyan are bringing in bikes that you can try, which is great. We've got Zwift setups. We've got like access to the F1 course. We're going to El Hudarat Island, and all these sorts of like different training locations. But we've also got like some leisure stuff. You got 5-star accommodation at the Ritz-Carlton, and like the package itself, like if you actually go online and do the calculations, and then you do the calculations of how much it's going to cost for the package that we've provided, you're saving about like €5,000. Like, it's such a sick package, and like you get to train with me for a week. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
I
But
was going to say I'd be wanting
just get
payment for
like,
that, to be honest, mate. You can pay me.
exactly, mate. Actually, I'll pay you to come.
Perfect. I'll
But
be with him,
it's
boy.
gonna be yeah, and it's good. I don't know. It's like it's a cool, like, for me, it's like a cool business model, and which we've like Trications is collaborating with World Triathlon, and someone's going to get like a free like entry into Trications, but they're also going to get assistance from World. That one person will have assistance from World Triathlon for a whole year to a race they want to target. So they'll get like help from World Triathlon to training and facilities and stuff to train to like a specific race they want to do in that year, which is actually like super cool.
It's really cool.
Like having a journey with an athlete, and yeah, like not only you get to do the trainings and some of like the stuff with me, you have like Q&As with like physiotherapists in Abu Dhabi. Also lining up like nutrition talks with some of the people I work with, because there's so many stuff that professional athletes get that actually age groupers will never get to see. So it's just like unlocking that to show them what it's all about too. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a week, and ideally I'd like it to be like a very gender quality, so like 6 and 6, which would be great. Oh, 6 and 7 or 6, whatever. And then hopefully if it was super successful, and if the Abu Dhabi Sports Council thought it was a success, like I'll do it again the year after, and hopefully increase numbers and kind of keep it rolling. And hopefully it's not the only year it will happen, but just like trying to keep it like super premium and super nice. You get like suits, like kit from Orca. You get like the bike kits. You get it's a sick package. Like it's the proper works, and we want to make it like super premium, and we want to make that like that person have like an amazing experience. We just don't want it to be like half-assed. We're doing it, and we're doing it, trying to do it properly and making it like trying to be as good as possible. And I've got such a good team around me. Like they've got like 3 or 4 people from Abu Dhabi doing a lot of logistic work at the moment, and then obviously my manager's pushing a lot into it. So it's real cool. But if you want to learn some more stuff about it, just go on Instagram for Trications, and yeah,
I'll include all the links in the YouTube. It'll be below, and then on the episode description.
Yeah,
Hayden,
it should be fun. Should be a good fun.
It is always a pleasure to talk to you, mate. You are literally one of the best blokes doing the sport. Again, I can see you're a good friend. Thank you for your time. If people want to follow along, where can they find you if they don't already?
You can find me on the gram, Hayden_Wilde, or I think it's like Hayden Wilde Athlete or something on Facebook if you're still on Facebook. But I normally just use Facebook for Marketplace, to be honest.
When's the TikTok coming, mate? When are we going to see Hayden doing the TikTok dances?
I've got TikTok, but man, I just can't do it, Like, I got TikTok on my phone, but it just never gets opened. And I think I've got like this young Australian bloke that follows me, just keeps continuously tagging me and stuff and making reels, and I'm just like, I love your work, dude, but it's getting a bit too much.
I thought it would be James Bale doing the same thing to you, to be honest. But I showed you that.
Probably is James Bale.
I was showing you that AI photo of him earlier. You know that he probably does them about you. He's probably got this whole gallery of like AI images.
100%. He's probably got them up in his little pain cave in the corner.
Podcast studio.
Oh, want to be like him.
He does, mate. He does. Hayden, thank you so much for your time. I'll talk to you later.
Cheers, mate.
And here we are, James. There you go. How'd you find that, mate?
Yeah, enthralling, mate. Enthralling. There's always lots of good stuff when you and Hayden get together. He's a good old boy. And
he's a good boy. Hayden, he's a good boy. I have a lot of time for Hayden. I had a lot of fun with Hayden in Malibu, actually. I bought him a whole bunch of shots, and I couldn't convince. He just wouldn't have them. I was like, I'm just going to keep buying them, and maybe you'll have one. He just said, nope. I think
both of you were independently sending me quite a few videos from your various escapades in Miami. Does he drink at all?
I think he has a few, but not like the shots that I was forcing down some of their throats. So it was good. Again, he's a good sport. He was back home in his bedroom, and Cassandra Beaugrand convinced him to come out. So I was like, respect. I like that. He just popped up, and I was like, fucking Hayden, I thought you weren't coming, mate. So no, that was good. Again, I have a lot of time for Hayden, and again, I think it was a good chat. But look, you've heard an hour and a half or an hour and a bit of Hayden. Let's talk about it. There's a race happening this weekend, just briefly, man. I know you spoke to Dave Tilbury-Davis a lot about it last week, but I haven't. Who are your picks? Who are your picks for the race?
I think Laura Phillips going to win.
Okay, interesting.
And I love the way she races. I think she's flying under the radar a little bit. You're going to have this top. There's the heat, there's the noise around some names going into this race. And I've got a feeling the way the attributes some of those names have got might cancel each other out a little bit.
Okay.
I think you're going to see some really interesting racing. And I think you're going to see, I love the fact that we've had no dropouts so far.
Yeah, I can't believe it, actually.
It's not just bad news on bad news on bad news. And I think that you're going to see a really fast swim from certain people. And then you're going to see a really powerful bike. And I think a lot of that might come to a bit of a deadening of the front of the race, where someone like Laura Philipp will then be able to take advantage come the end.
Interesting. Who did Dave pick for the win?
Who did he pick for the win? I can't remember.
That's all right. So, listen last week, guys, if you want to hear what Dave, I was just curious.
I think he picked Anne Howe.
Interesting. See, I have this thought that I really feel like that Lucy Charles Taylor Knibb combo together could do some damage, and I feel like Taylor Knibb especially, we might see her really rip that race apart, almost like Sam Laidlow did in Nice a bit. Again, and look, I'll probably be proven wrong. I just have this question mark about her executing perfectly at her first ever attempt at the distance in Kona. For me,
and just like that PTO post, she's never run a marathon distance before.
Yeah,
ever, anywhere.
And she's had some injuries.
Her furthest run is 19.92 miles or something. She's never actually run that distance. Not in anger, not in training.
Yeah.
Not in Kona, not in the heat, not after racing Lucy Charles on a bike. This is where I feel that there's going to be a moment where she can either magically do it, or it's just going to go.
Well, that's what I think. It's either going to go. She's either going to run away with this thing. I see two outcomes for Taylor: either runs away with the thing or walks back from the energy lab. They're the two outcomes I see. And again, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't wish the walking on her. I hope she has an excellent race. I think she's fantastic for the sport. But I think we're going to see Chelsea Sodaro back up. I
saw you put that there. Yeah.
I really think that run I saw her deliver in Singapore impressed the fuck out of me, because the focus of the race was on Ash Journal and Annie Haug. And then Chelsea came in, and I was like, shit, she, didn't really think much of it. And then I saw the splits. I was like, holy fucking shit, she ran faster than all of them. We saw what she did on that course last year, and she had, Danny didn't have the great race, but she was still on the front of the bike, had Lucy on the front of the bike. Like, I don't see a big enough change in the dynamic of how this race is going to go, because we know there's going to be bike power at the front. I think Chelsea is going to run through. So I think I put Chelsea first, Anne Haug second, and Daniela Ryf third. That's probably my podium. But again, Daniela Ryf could be first, third, or fucking miles back. I'd see Laura Philipp as a podium contender.
You sound like me and Dave, because I kept thinking of scenarios in my head and going, could be this, but there's such a depth.
There really is
a depth of field here that it's like, well, this person could do this, but then this person could do this, and this person, and this person, and this person. And you're like, oh my God, this is so good, because you've got so many options.
I'll be honest, though. I would probably say that I can pick the people that I would pick from the winner. There's probably only 3 or 4 of them, to be honest. I think that you're probably looking at a Chelsea Sodaro, Anne Haug, probably Daniela Ryf for me. They're the or Taylor Knibb. But Taylor Knibb to me is that 50-50.
She's had
I know,
some
you're
bad
right.
luck,
You're right. Absolutely. The rest of them, I probably would say I could see a lot of them have be in contention for the podium. And what I imagine with that group I've said is they're probably all going to go for the win, right? So you might see. I really hope we don't see Lucy Charles second again. I'd love to see. Sorry, I should have included Lucy. Lucy's another one that I could see win it. Some of the others, I don't know. And yeah, I'm so enthralled by the potential of this event. But yeah, I'm gonna go Chelsea. I just think that I feel like she's been through that rough patch. She's had to deal with the pressure that came with that win last year. And I feel like she's, I've seen videos of her. She looks happy. She looks confident. I think she's come out the other side of that adversity, and she's in a really good place. And you've got other athletes, like let's use Kat Matthews as an example, who missed the race last year. That must, again, hideous circumstances. But I suddenly feel like Kat probably has more pressure coming into this race than she would have last year, because of the what if element of it. And there is so much focus on her. And I can see, I saw Kat Matthews come out and say, it's going to take a 240, a record marathon. I'm like, yes, absolutely it is. Like, I don't think there's even in doubt this year. Like, I feel like we are probably going to see, I have no doubt the course record's probably going to get broken this year, like significantly. I feel like it's going to be a fascinating day, but those sort of athletes.
This field is much more exciting than the field we saw going into Nice. Nice, for me, was all about the course, and watching it play out was interesting. This field excites me. As a little appendices to what we were saying, I want to see a top 5 for Sky Munch. I'd love to see that.
Love it. Yep.
And I'd really love to see Ruth Astle do well as well.
So I was going to say as well, I think Ruth, I was talking to, Jean-Francois from Argonne about Ruth, and I asked, how's the leg going? He goes, we think it's better. So again, I just wish good things for Ruth. And we saw that last year's Israel race, where she got everything right. She can deliver, a really consistent, good race. But yeah, mate, I'm going to go Chelsea Sodaro, Anne Haug, Daniela Ryf for me. But I've probably just given the kiss of death, unfortunately.
Yeah. We will see.
We will see.
Yeah.
But Jimbo, I didn't do it at the start. Talking Triathlon is the podcast. If you enjoy it, please head to patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. We're going to do a bonus episode next week, Mr. Bale. We are going to talk about probably Malibu, my inside, because we haven't had a chance to really debrief after the race.
No. Captain Scorpion's team manager guy.
There is the
all over the network.
You saw the YouTube video, right? So maybe I'll put a link to the YouTube video in the show notes this week. We can actually. It's like one of those Drive to Survive things where I'm like I'm the voiceover
guy.
I'm the data guy. I'm the nerdy data guy.
Yeah.
So
nerdy data
guy. Thanks. And again, thanks to everybody who came up and said hello to me at the race. It was good fun. But we'll do that on our bonus episode. Plus, again, I heard so much gossip. It's out of control, actually, how much gossip I've heard. So we got heaps of gossip for the bonus episode. But we'll do that next week. So patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. Bonus monthly show, WhatsApp group. Again, guys, if you are a Patreon, make sure you're in the WhatsApp group before Saturday in the US. We'll be live chatting during the race. It's my favorite thing about watching races now is actually having people to chat along with. And we got the Facebook group as well. So that's that. Jimbo, do your little spiel at the end of the show, because I know I sort of hijacked it a little bit, and I'm going to keep talking to give you enough time to bring it up on your screen.
No, I've got it. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, because you kind of launched into it, and it's the one time I've got it lined up here. So thanks for listening to Talking Triathlon. If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, is at tford14 on Insta, and I'm bale.james85 on Insta. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Insta and at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. If you join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episodes and the social group. And the social group is growing. The WhatsApp group is growing. The insight is incredible. Come and play. It's as little as buying a coffee a month.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I'm
But really
genuinely
cheap
excited.
coffee as well
Yeah, mate.
nowadays.
Fucking hell, in America. In America, there was in the hotel, there was like a sort of Starbucks. It wasn't a Starbucks, it was a sort of Starbucks. I fucking it was like 750 US for a cup of shit coffee. I couldn't fucking believe it. It's like 10 US, that's like 10, 11 Australian dollars for a shit coffee. I was, mate, this is ridiculous. Fucking hell.
Yeah. I mean, those are the
Ridiculous.
moments, aren't they, where you decide not to drink coffee.
I still drank coffee, but that's because I jet lagged as fuck. I'm genuinely excited for next week's episode. There's so much to talk about. I'm excited for this weekend's race. It is a good time to be a fan of triathlon. Till next week, Jimbo. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.